Hello everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's fourth and final video. Going to have a look at the weather for next week to 10 days for today's final video. Day 10 will take us to the 14th of February, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They run around a couple of weeks. We'll have a look at CFSV2 at the end of the video for the next 4 weeks. That gets us into early March. I should get on with that for you in a moment. Just to say that the first video today was 6 AM upload. We'll also release weekend forecast and the ECM WF 42-day forecast as well. So please like, share, subscribe on the video. Thank you so much, everybody. But yeah, that you can probably hear that I'm sounding much better today. Finally, I am out of pain. So yeah, I've had a nightmare few days with the tooth abscess and all the pain I've had in my face and that from my neck. But finally, I'm completely out of pain today, completely pain-free. I'm feeling much better. So thank you so much to all of you for your messages of concern and whatnot. And yes, I'm feeling absolutely fine today. You know, I'm sure you can hear the difference in the speech. No, we couldn't do a live stream last night, but as everything's cleared up now with dental abscess, I'll be able to be live streaming from Monday night onwards. And of course, the tooth is coming out on Thursday, so we'll see how I am next Friday after my extraction for the next Friday night live stream. But thank you so much, everybody, for all of the messages of concern. You know, absolutely lovely. Thank you so much, all of you. Right, okay, let's have a look then. We're going to start off with temperatures in the stratosphere at 10 HPA. So the warming is continuing. This is from the JMA, showing that temperatures hovering close to minus 30. We did get up to like above minus 30 yesterday. I think we've dropped down slightly now to under minus 30, but we're still significantly above the grey line, still significantly above long-term average, which will at this time of year normally be around minus 53, something like that. Going a little bit lower down to 30 HPA, we talked about this yesterday there. Things have cooled down. We've actually returned back close to average after warming things up there earlier on in the week. Further warming is on the way of the stratosphere at 10 HPA. This is the GFS midnight run for 10 HPA forecast. So initially, the displacement event is going to continue with the polar vortex trying to push back towards the North Pole, but never quite getting back to where it should be. I'm going to keep the temperature hovering over the pole, probably around minus 40 something. Like that, 10 HPA. However, into the extended, around middle of February, another warming of the stratosphere taking place then. Looks quite significant, and further weakening of the polar vortex is likely. That's the GFS midnight run. This is how the GFS 6Z is looking. Again, all much of much, of course, over the next few days, with temperatures at 10 HPA over the North Pole, but running through into the middle and second half of February, a more significant warming on the GFS 6Z. That is a proper sun stratospheric warming, I think. The only thing we're not doing there is splitting PV, still not quite splitting the PV up to 20th of February anyway, but everything else would be in place with that. There would be a, that's a sun stratospheric one. There would be a reversal of zone winds with that. We're lifting the temperature there over the pole close to around minus 12, I think, minus 16, minus 12. So very significant warming, sending zone winds into reverse on the GFS 6Z operational run. Many of the GFS ensembles forecast a reversal of zone winds through the middle to second half of February as well. This zero line just here is where we're going to get down to have a reversal of zone winds. This is from weatheritscool.com. We're starting off just there, so we're actually a little bit stronger than average with zone wind at the moment, but it's going to be dropping out. It's only going to be weakening over the next week to 10 days. And as you can see, many of those GFS ensemble members, which is something we didn't have with the last warming, many of them now are going for a reversal of zone winds. Some going to record-breaking levels in terms of the reversal of zone winds. I think that is unlikely. You know, they're outliers, but many of those ensemble members are going between 0 and minus 20, so a reversal of zone winds being predicted by many of the GFS ensembles. Not all of them, some of them are still keeping zone wind up around here. Some of them don't send the zone wind into reverse, but a lot of them are doing that now. So all eyes will be on Stratosphere around the middle of February to, the third week of February, see whether we do get a genuine SSW. Remember, to say you've had an SSW, you've got an SSW, the gold standard is to send the solar wind into reverse. A split of the PV is something extra that I like to see. But to say that you have SSW, you've got to get the solar wind into reverse. Many of the GFS ensemble members are doing that. So development still quite interesting stratosphere-wise. This could have impacts for spring. Well, for March, anyway. Right, okay, central temperature is continuing to rise. I mean, it's about as high as it's going to get. May tick up a little bit more after today, but once today's out of the way, then it should be on its way down. So we're standing now at 8.6, which is nearly 5 degrees above average. That's provisional to the 3rd of February. I say, very mild day today, but once today's out of the way, we've got lots of cold, frosty nights to come. So that, I think, going to do a bit of a plummet, likely over the next few days. Could be a rather entertaining crash with that over the next week once today is out of the way. Just having a quick look at the CT. Why not do a little bit of CT Saturday? So this was CT page from UK Met, going all the way back to 1659. Of course, it's the longest and most reliable temperature record anywhere on Earth. Of course, the further back you go, the more unreliable it is. But it's the best that we've got, for a long-term consistent temperature record. So if we come down to the current year, 2023, of course, we've got January. Already in the bank, that came out at 5.2, which is a little bit above average. December came out at 3.4, which was a little bit colder than average. At the moment, our overall, our overall temperature for this winter is about average. February is going to decide which way we go with this winter, whether it's a bit milder or a bit colder than average. Going back through the last few years, well, last year had an exceptionally mild February in 2022, came out 6.9, really, really mild February last year. Before that, had a slightly cooler one, but still pretty mild at 5.3, and interestingly, that contained the coldest week of the winter, but the second half of February 2021 was very mild, so that explains what happened there. 2020 and 2019, both a pair of very, very mild Februaries as well, 6.9, 6.4. Our last cold February was 2018 at 3.1. Of course, that culminated, climax with the beast from the east. That's our last cold February. Before that, 2017 was very mild. Our last really cold February was 2010, which is under 3 degrees at 2.9. Our last sub-zero February was a long time ago in 1986. There it is at -1. Really, really cold February. Excuse me, once again, really, really cold February in 1986. That's the last time I had a sub-zero CT. February 1991, notable for a severely cold spell in the first half of the month, came out at 1.6, so the second half of the month was a little bit milder. 1996 also had quite a cold February at 2.5. We had an exceptionally warm February in 1998, almost summer-like at times in the middle part of the month, 7.2. And 2002, excuse me, also had a very mild February at 7.0. If we go back to the daddy of cold winters, we can see that had a sub-zero CT for back in 1963. So we had January at -2.1, then February up to -0.7. So 2 back-to-back freezing sub-zero CT months. That was extraordinary. Of course, had another sub-zero CT February in 1956 at -0.2. And the coldest February on record, I think, is 1947, with a CT of -1.9. Of course, extraordinarily cold and snowy month. Blizzard after blizzard after blizzard in the winter of 1947. The warmest February on record, believe it or not, is an extremely, and I do mean extremely long time ago. That's 1895. That was also a sub-zero CT February at -1.8. I want to do a historic video about the winter of 1894, 1895 soon. But the warmest February on record was a very, 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 very long time ago. You can see how far back we're going with this, and you wonder, I'm sure, where I'm going to start. But it's actually here in 1779 at 7.9. Which is absolutely extraordinary to think that in all of the warming that we've had over recent years, our warmest February century temperature record is 1779, which is just unbelievable. And I'm sure that will get beaten before too much longer. Maybe it'll be this year, but I don't think it will be this year, but it does it because of the frosty nights we've got coming up in the next week. But one of these years, I'm sure, will beat 1779. But for now, it's just about the longest standing record within the CT record, I think, that one. Yeah, you know, we've definitely seen a warming trend over the past few years for our winters and for our Februaries, but 1779 still holding on to the warmest February on record. Crazy. Right, let's have a look at some forecasting then. So we're going to have a look at the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles. We're at London today, so the red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for London. We're starting off around to a bit above average at the moment. The temperatures will be coming down over the next week. There are still a few GFS ensemble members that are going quite cold in around a week's time. By next weekend, we're actually going down to around -8 at 850 HPA. Though it remains to be seen how cold it's going to get next week. Certainly going to be frost and fell. By the end of next week, there might be the potential for something a little bit more wintry than that. As we go into the middle to second half of February, the upper air temperatures are lifting up, although there is a lot of scatter, I have to say, within that. So we've got all of the cold ensemble members down here, got the milder ensemble members up there. So I think, you know, beyond sort of Valentine's Day, there is a lot of uncertainty within the GFS ensembles. What we can say is that there's going to be a lot of dry weather over the next week or so, but getting more unsettled into the second half of February with precipitation coming back and, likely the Atlantic beginning to rev back up a bit as we go into the second half of February. Although that's a long way off, and even though it doesn't look excessively wet. So how long this dry spell goes on for, we'll have to wait and see. Temperature anomalies from the 4th to the 12th of February, colder than average for England and Wales. Average to a little bit above for Scotland and Ireland. And precipitation anomalies from the 4th to 12th February going to be drier than normal. The latest info on that from earthandnullschool.net shows that we've got high pressure. Oh, excuse me, once again. God, a little bit of a tickle today again. Got high pressure just to our west. The mild southwesterly wind is still in crossing the way, but we begin to change wind direction further north. Start to bring some cooler air in behind a weather front, and that cooler air will then come southwards, or cold air will come southwards through this weekend, and under high pressure that will set up frost and fog. Check out weekend forecast, see what is in store. This is how you can make your run. It's looking for midnight on Tuesday, high pressure in control, bringing plenty of frosty nights through the early to middle part of next week. Weather system coming in off it lines around Thursday could bring some shower rain into the north. By Friday, milder and more unsettled for the north, mostly dry, cold and frosty still down in the south. By next weekend, most places are turning milder with those winds in from the south and from the southwest. Icon, again, plenty of frost to come through the early to middle part of next week, even into second half next week. We keep it quite cold and frosty in the south, begin to go a little bit milder, Scotland and Northern Ireland by Friday perhaps. Next weekend, looks like that. So the milder air struggling to make inroads into the south and east, struggling to get down there. So still cold and frosty probably into Saturday in the south and east. Meanwhile, further north and west is milder. You'll notice that, certainly for the south anyway, Icon looks colder and frostier than the UK Met for next weekend. GFS midnight run, again with high pressure bringing lots of dry, frosty weather through the early to middle part of next week. That carries on into the second half of next week and even into next weekend. Again, we find that the milder winds are struggling to make inroads. They do get into Scotland and Northern Ireland, but for England and Wales still probably cold and frosty up to next weekend. By the beginning of the following week, so this gets us to Tuesday 14th, it is all changed. Then low pressure deepest in the Atlantic starts bringing wet and windy weather in from the west. And then we go rather unsettled through the second half of February with low pressure bringing bouts of rain in from off the Atlantic. The GFS 6Z, again cold and frosty on Tuesday, and that frosty spell continues into the second half of next week as well. High pressure still around the country into next weekend, and pulling in a little bit of a cold and northeasterly wind as well, maybe a few wintry showers possible there in the southeast corner with that. So stays frosty right the way through next weekend, not knowing roads really from the Atlantic up to next Sunday. And then into the following week, it's Monday 13th, low pressure struggling to get in from the west. That might even bring a little bit of snow if that low pressure comes into cold air. So a real struggle to get the milder air through by day 10, which is the 14th of February. You know, there might be a little bit of snow going on, and then behind that, the Atlantic is starting to break through. And then, similar to the midnight run, we go into a milder, wetter, windier spell with low pressure off the Atlantic. By the very end of the GFS 6Z, we're back into colder, northerly winds again. If you enjoyed the video, then please you like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Drop a comment, let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids. Get them to subscribe to. We need to put on around 18 or 19 subscribers now to get to 15.5 days. So we're getting ever closer. Please give us a sub. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, GM, again with high pressure, being mostly dry, cold and frosty weather from the early to middle part of next week. We keep it cold in the south through to next weekend as well, with further frost, a little bit milder further north and west with southwesterly winds. And up to day 10, really, that high pressure is still in control. Just by day 10, it slips away enough to allow low pressure in from off the Atlantic. That bringing outbreaks of rain in from the west. Of course, if the air is cold enough, so that comes into the country, then there might be some snow on the leading edge for the south and for the southeast. We wouldn't know, until much closer to the time frame of that. But most of the GM is high pressure dominated, cold and frosty for the south and the east in particular. And then the ECM WF looks like that. So once more, lots of high pressure domination through the coming week, particularly the south. Plenty of frosty weather there. A little bit milder, wetter, windier up in the north, perhaps on Thursday. But really high pressure is in control of weather through most of next week, bringing frost, especially so to the south and to the southeast. By around day 9-10, just the high pressure slips away enough to Eastern Europe to allow low pressure start coming in from off the Atlantic. But even then, we're still bringing some quite cold air, I think, from the south and southeast. Although the ice bars have turned to the south, I think winds are still coming in from like the southeast, still coming off the continent. So particularly for the south and the east, that was still big cold and frosting. So a prolonged, quite a prolonged cold spell coming, certainly with overnight frost anyway. This is our precipitation forecast, and all based on that ECM run from Meteo.com. There'll be lots of dry weather, of course, over the next few days. What precipitation is pretty much confined to the far northwest until around the 12th of February. Then we might get a little bit of rain going down in the south, but even then it's very light and fleeting. That's how we look at the end of the ECM run. Most rain gains still confined out to the west. Excuse me, once more, these are the options on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10. Gets us to the 14th of February. 20 from the Iceland Metro, 20 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure out west. High pressure is to the east. Bring up the wind from a southerly southeasterly direction, so probably cold and frosty, particularly for the south and east. That does include the control and the operational run. 14 just here with high pressure, a little bit further south, because it's still frosty for the south, but generally that's bringing the air more in from off the Atlantic. 11 with high pressure towards Scandinavia, that's going to be cold and frosty. And then we've got 6, a minority option, very unsettled with low pressure over the top of the country. That's the most unsettled option, of course, in 2 weeks' time. These are the options that we've got. This gets us to the 19th of February. 21 members of the ECM ensembles then have a low pressure in control, bringing wet and windy weather in off the Atlantic. 16 with some high pressure up towards Greenland and the trough of low pressure a bit further southwards. That could start to dig colder air into Scotland in particular. How far south that trough goes will be interesting to speculate. beyond that. And then 14 members of the ECM ensemble still with a high pressure kind of ridging through the country. So that carries on the frosty spell, really, right way up to the 19th of February. CFS finally, these are 500 millibar heights and lines breaking down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 4th to the 10th of February. The coming week is dominated by high pressure, bringing lots of dry weather, but of course there will be overnight frost, especially in the south and southeast. The high pressure goes on to week 2, the 11th to the 17th of February. That high pressure still sitting over top of the country, bringing lots of frost with it as well. Week 3, going to be the 18th, 24th of February, with high pressure still in control, but a little bit milder now, with bringing milder out around the top of the high, especially for more northern areas. Week 4, look at this, high pressure fest goes on, 25th of February to the 3rd of March. Still that area of high pressure right in over top of the country. What a dry February that would be if it comes off. We shall see. I struggle to think high pressure going to be in control for the next 4 weeks. But of course, we have had situations where high pressure's gone on for weeks and weeks and weeks. It wasn't all that long ago we was in a drought. No, we'll wait and see where things go with that. And we're done. If you've enjoyed the video, please can you like, share, subscribe. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think about this and all of our videos. And don't forget to tell your friends about GavsWeatherVids and ask them to subscribe as well. Thank you so much everybody for doing that. Right, just to say what's coming up tomorrow. Going to have a 6 AM upload. There will be the 5th spring update looking at January CET data with that. And there'll be a 10 to 14 day coming along as well. So plenty of content still to come. You enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and for this one, that's all for now, and thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.